lightning talk is Sanjay Poonen, who is the COO of VMware, which is a global leader in cloud infrastructure and digital workplace technology. In this role, Sanjay is responsible for many important functions, including sales, marketing, communications, services, and alliances. Sanjay's had an incredible career with lots of executive level roles, including leading SAP's analytics, big data, mobile, and other industries businesses. But for such an accomplished tech leader, it doesn't take much time with him to feel his infectiously positive attitude and get a sense of his humility. We're so lucky to have him joining us today to share some of his thoughts on a very important topic of cloud infrastructure. So please join me in welcoming Sanjay. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Good evening, Core Summit. How are you? Great. Great. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you, Michael and the team, for inviting me. I was invited last year and I wasn't able to come, so he made sure a year ago that I booked this on my calendar, and I'm delighted to be here. And I thought I'd just spend 5 minutes with you talking about a topic that's I'm passionate about. I've been very fortunate in certainly the last 15 years of my experience, last 6 years at VMware and the prior almost 8 years at SAP, to spend about 70% of my life in engineering roles and 30% of my life in sales and marketing roles. And the question I get often asked by people is, listen, how do you build a customer-centric culture? Can we go back one slide? How do you build a customer-centric culture? And I wrote a blog about this a couple of months ago that kind of went viral on the top 10 ways in which you can build a customer-centric culture. Just the lessons that I've learned in the last 25 years of my experience in primarily, I'd say, B2B companies. Most of my life has been in enterprise. And I thought to share that with you. If you want to hear more than what I've written a blog on LinkedIn, you're welcome to read more of it there. So I'm just going to run through these in sort of top 10 style and share a little bit of something, and maybe one or two of these resonate with those of you who are either entrepreneurs or bigger. Number one, and I think Chris talked about it just now, there was a part of seminal research that had an impact on my life 20 years ago when I was at Harvard Business School. And that was probably the last time I lived in the Boston area. I have warm memories of this place. Research written by Len Schlesinger that talked about the service profit chain. And he and a group of other professors at Harvard Business School studied companies that had consistently showed shareholder value return over a sustainable period of time, and found that behind their success wasn't just shareholder return value and satisfied customers, that's usually but were highly engaged and satisfied employees. And what was the real root cause of sustainable shareholder value wasn't satisfied customers, but satisfied employees. In other words, if you want to have satisfied shareholders, don't just focus on satisfied customers, take care of your employees first. 1 star is worth 10 mediocre players. You better hug and kiss your stars. I don't mean literally, but you get the idea. There's so many ways in which you can do this, and probably one of the most evident ways is when it comes to time when it's bonuses. So often I see peanut buttering of bonuses. You've got to find ways by which your star employees are taken care of, and I would bet you that if you take care of your star employees, they'll in fact take care of great customers, and customers drive shareholder value. That's lesson number one. Number two, you ever gone to a meeting where people from your company are just speaking too much? I had a boss in one of my previous jobs who would tell us, and he had a seminal impact in my life, we're going to this meeting, I don't want an alligator mouth, I want rabbit ears. Okay? In other words, you've got 2 years and 1 month for a reason. And the most important thing you can do when you're meeting customers is ask the most insightful questions. I often sit in meetings where I hear these insightful questions, I'm like, man, that was incredible, that was a great question. It was one question, but behind that was so much packed into it. Find the least number of questions you can ask that get you the most amount of information in the smallest amount of time. And you will find that the dynamic starts to change. Most often what you're doing with customers is like that doctor in the first few minutes when you visit her, and she's asking just the important question about whether it's blood pressure, cholesterol levels, all the kinds of things that you want to know before you actually go into prescriptive mode. Number three, I think you've got to practice ruthless customer responsiveness. All of us are very busy. We are traveling. We're all over the place. I have a rule that if a customer sends me an email or sends me a text message or sends me some form of communication, I'm going to respond to them within 24 hours. And if I can do that as COO of VMware, I'm certainly going to exemplify that responsiveness to the rest of my organization. And I think when you send that responsiveness down to that person who is at the lowest level of the organization, whether it's an engineer or a sales rep, they see a responsiveness from the top part of the organization that's exhibiting servant leadership. And I think that goes a long way to set a culture where it's not just, you send something into a black box and you never hear back from them. We go to meetings, and within 24 hours of coming back from the meetings, we would have a crisp set of action items that was well documented in terms of what this level of responsiveness is stuff that people did in the old days, and I think people are getting away from this because you just assume, well, let's be sloppy about our responsiveness. I think those lessons still work. Number 4, tie your net promoter score, number 4, to your compensation. Now, this is a pretty well understood aspect of how people do this in the context of customer-facing employees like sales reps and consultants. But I find this to be very helpful with engineers, okay? Often engineers, when they get escalations and bugs coming to them, they think it's everybody else's fault but their own. Because why would the damn customer have this problem if the sales rep or the pre-sales person or the consultant implemented this product well, it wouldn't have these problems. One of the things that we found to be very, very effective is tie the engineer's compensation to the number of bugs they have, or the customer satisfaction. And you'll be surprised how quickly you can apply this to both engineering and go-to-market teams. Number 5, we found this principle of co-innovation with customers to be very powerful. When I was at SAP, the chairman of SAP, Hasso Plattner, helped co-fund and start the design school at Stanford. We did a lot of work with them. And bringing design thinking in a formal way to product managers and user-centric designers, but also to people who are customer-facing, it transformed the way in which we design products. And for some of us who are in the enterprise, we tend to build complex products. And one of the ways in which you can radically simplify is to bring that co-innovation philosophy with customers and make design thinking a key part to everything you do. Number 6, okay? Often that listening through co-innovation can get you to the wrong place. You want to listen and lead. My favorite example is the iPhone. If Steve Jobs was just listening to the marquee customers who were using smartphones, he would have built a better BlackBerry with a keyboard. But there was an aspect of listening, but then also understanding what the market really wanted was something very different. And that takes a special art. And I think the greatest product managers and product marketeers are people who are able to listen, but they have a good sense of what the market also wants. Number 7, ever go to a presentation and you watch, maybe if you're a customer, people just whip up 100 slides. And I use this example when I'm often talking to my sales teams. If you have kids, and one of my favorite times of the day is I've got a 13-year-old girl and twin 9-year-old boys, is telling them a story. Do you ever whip up a PowerPoint when you tell them a story? I mean, that's a boring parent, right? PowerPoint has become the bane of our existence and the bane of telling stories. We got to go back to the simplicity of making every aspect of what we tell even a customer Sesame Street simple. Number 8, make your decisions. Too much of it is just driven by gut. In God we trust, everybody else brings data. And ask yourself persistently, what else do you not know that can be data-driven? Maybe that last 20% is driven by gut, but 80% better be driven by data. Number 9, I find the customers who call me back tens of years later are somebody that I helped 10, 15 years ago, not because I sold them a product, but I gave them some advice. And often the advice was not even to buy our product. It was a decision to maybe hold and do something else. And the fact that we built a trusted relationship with them came in handy. On this phone, I probably have the contact of 5,000 CIOs whom I've probably helped over the course of my last 20 years. And I will tell you the ones I have the best relationships with are people who have had that trusted relationship. And I'd sort of end on that note. Most people think, well, it's the size of your Rolodex that matters, the number of LinkedIn contacts. That's a quantity metric. I would measure your Rolodex by the people inside that Rolodex that have influence and power. I think as you expand in your careers, it's not what you know, it's who you know, and how you use that in a bilateral way to build trust. So I hope these 10 were helpful to you. I think I got done in 5 minutes. And if you want to read more about it, you're welcome to read my blog on this article on LinkedIn. Thank you very much.